Mabuhay sa inyo lahat. Today I'm gonna have a great reaction video. This is Johnny Antilon. He was invited to a student exchange program in the United States, and in this video they are talking about the threat of the communism. So this is a hot topic even today after that many years. Communism, red tagging, CPP, NPAs, not just in the Philippines but around the world. But actually Philippines is one of the countries that's got the longest running problem with communism. So I'm very excited to hear what does a Filipino youngster in 1954 think about the communist threat to the Philippines.
How does the problem of communism in the United States compare with the problem of communism in other countries, and is there more than one solution? First of all, from the United Kingdom is Peter Hudson. Finally, here's Johnny Antilon from the Philippines.
Okay.
Well, how about it, boys? How does America's communist problem compare with the communist problem in your countries?
The problem of communism in the United States is a psychological problem.
Well, I would say that the communist problem in America is much more difficult than our own problem.
Right.
Because in the Philippines, the communists act in the open, while here in America, they remain hidden.
I think that's absolutely right. In some countries they remain hidden, in some countries they're out in the open.
Coming back to what you said, Johnny, I thought you said that the problem of communism in the United States was more difficult. How would you, suggest a remedy for that?
Well, I will not sit you like a prophet and tell you what to do about your own problem. I do not pretend to know all the solutions against communism.
Okay.
Although I will say that one of the best ways to combat communism is to take a militant stand against it. And one of the best ways to show your militant stand is to outlaw every communist party in every country in the world.
No. By doing that, you're using communist methods against the communists, which is defeating your very purpose. It is highly undemocratic, I think, to outlaw the communists, because that is the essence of democracy, to have difference and to give the opportunity for expression. Wouldn't you
I
think so?
know, but there should also be such a thing as limiting freedom. There is a distinction between freedom and license. A rattlesnake is dangerous. It would be undemocratic to limit its freedom in theory, but it is also wise to limit a rattlesnake's freedom.
Yeah.
Yes, but you are not taking it for granted that every communist is a traitor. I am not quite sure of that. I think it is wrong to persecute a whole group because of some mistakes on the part of its members.
So I kind of agree here. Limiting of rights, that's actually correct. Just because we have a democracy, it doesn't give us unlimited rights to do whatever we want. There's got to be some kind of a limits to what people are actually allowed to do. I grew up during the Cold War, at the end of the Cold War actually. So I have a lot of insight about this, and I think that the way that Johnny is answering these questions is unbelievable. And I can see a big difference between the guy from England and from Norway to, of course, Ram from India and to the Philippines. And in a way, I think I agree most with Johnny. Johnny's way of handling the problem is straight on. Yes, it might limit some people's rights, but as I said before, I don't think that democracy gives you unlimited rights to do whatever you want.
I want to say that the communists already are traitors. They cannot turn into further traitors. I want to bring out this point.
Okay.
I want to state that every communist party in every country of the world is not a self-contained unit in itself.
Okay.
It is a branch of a world conspiracy with headquarters in Moscow.
Right.
And the best way to cut off the body is by cutting off its arms.
But there's one thing, Johnny. You see, you can prosecute a certain person only the moment he becomes subversive to law and order, but not till then. Till then it is his right to express himself, at least in a democracy, if it claims to be a democracy.
The minute a man joins a society with the avowed purpose of killing you and cutting your throat, he becomes a traitor to that society. He puts himself outside the pale and protection of the society because he totally rejects it.
But only after he makes an explicit statement of his purpose.
And does he not
till
make
then.
an explicit statement by joining it, by signing up for it, by giving an oath that is going to turn against this government?
Peter's been trying to get a word
Isn't
in
that
here.
explicit enough?
I don't think so. You can't punish a man until he's committed a crime. At least in Britain you can't. You can't punish him for the thought.
I'm not punishing him for the thought. I'm just saying that he's joined an association of murderers. For instance,
Yes.
here is a group of 10 men. They've drawn up a plan to cut your throat. Then one man of the 10 actually goes out and cuts your throat. Does
Okay.
it stand to reason that the other 9 should be irresponsible or should be free from the blame?
I don't accept your premise
That's
that
true.
they're out to cut our throats.
And what else do you think that they're supposed to do? when they want to overthrow our society, overthrow our government,
Yeah.
institute their own regime, institute their own reign of terror. What else do you want? There are more ways of cutting a throat than simply drawing a knife across it.
Well, but those people who plan to do this are individual persons. You cannot persecute the group as a whole because these individual persons are criminals.
I kind of get the point that both sides are saying, but I really still believe mostly in Johnny. Ang galing talaga si Johnny, no? Mag-argue eh. Grabe, para sa akin ha, I feel much more for the arguments of Johnny than anybody else in this panel. Okay, now what I've done here is basically I've cut out a lot of the other arguments and I'm highlighting Johnny's arguments because they are so amazing for me. I think they are direct to the point. So let's have a look at some of what else he has to say, huh?
Communist investigation should be carried on in secret.
By the way, if I may put in a word about Gunnar saying that you should not prosecute the Communist Party because the individuals carry it out. I do say that even if the individuals are the ones who commit the crime, they do so upon the orders of the party and according to the plans of the party. Remember that a party is composed of individuals. Whatever the individuals do, the party is guilty of. The party is not an abstract idea.
Yeah.
Whatever its members commit, then that is what it is guilty of.
Yes.
And then your second point, Gunnar, about saying that investigation of communists should not be left to politicians. I agree with that. And I want to add something more.
Okay.
I want to say that it should never be the function of the legislature of any country to inspect or to ferret out communists. It should be left to the executive branch. And then the executive branch should gather the evidence while the judicial branch should find out how to evaluate this evidence and then prosecute the man as he should be prosecuted. But a man should never be put in a position where his innocence or guilt is in the shadows. He should never be placed in a position where, whether judged guilty or innocent, he's still condemned in the eyes of society.
Correct.
A man should be tried only by the courts, because only the courts have the power to say whether a man is definitely guilty or definitely innocent. Any other way would be judgment by anticipation.
No, Johnny,
Yes.
there's a difference between feasibility and morality. But returning to your point of conducting the investigation in secret, I think that is entirely undemocratic.
He didn't mean a secret trial, Ram, I'm sure.
Precisely. He meant, Ram, the secret gathering of evidence.
Okay.
But the actual trial of the man, the actual presentation of the evidence will be brought before the public.
Yes, it should be brought
See?
before the public.
Absolutely correct, say Johnny, diba? I say he's not saying that the trial is gonna be hidden away or be a secret. What he's saying is the gathering of the intelligence or of the evidence could be done in secret. And then, of course, the trial should be public so people know what's happening. Tama yun, diba?
Well, personally, I think outlawing the Communist Party is lazy. It just stresses the incompetence of a country to deal with it. But I want to get on to Ram about this British imperialism. Would you explain what you meant by
Well,
it?
just a minute, please, Peter. Why are you going to attack my point and transfer the argument to Ram? Isn't that unfair?
No, it is related.
No.
Really.
Oh, wait a minute. Give Johnny one word. Go ahead, Johnny.
He said that outlawing the Communist Party is a lazy method of fighting the Communist Party.
it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think you're taking a definite stand against it. And you're giving all your actions a legal basis. Where does laziness come in?
Well, because, well, you see, when you have a communist party in the country, that party is a real danger.
That's
But
right.
the communist party can never be prosperous.
Look, what
No.
Wait, all right, give Peter a chance.
Right, Peter.
when I say it's lazy, I mean it's just pushing the issue further away by outlawing it. You said the situation in America was more difficult because communists are hidden here.
That's right.
If you outlaw your Communist Party, all you'll do in effect will be to drive it underground, away from being in the open to behind the scenes, and then you have a problem difficult.
That isn't so. Now look, you contradict yourself. If it is really so that it would drive them underground, instead of being lazy about it, why not let them stay in the open? Because that way we could catch them easier, according to your reasoning.
Yes.
However, you said that by outlawing them, that would drive them underground, and therefore would make it harder to catch them.
That's why I mean,
It's not? Now let me point out that it is harder to catch men when he's underground. So the element of laziness does not enter into
when
it.
I said lazy, I meant that you were pushing the issue further away.
You are not pushing the issue further away when you recognize a danger and you take steps to mitigate that danger.
To push the danger further away from yourself, you're not doing anything by outlawing
You
it.
recognize that a man has a fever. That is not pushing the issue away.
grant you that. But
Oh,
you can't just
naturally.
say, I recognize he has the fever, and then leave it at that. Put him in an isolation
But you
ward.
can do this. You can say, I recognize he has the fever. I recognize it is bad, and because it is bad, I will take measures to prevent its further spread.
And not
Right.
do anything to him.
Why not do anything to him? Cure him.
But you're just curing by outlawing the
The-
fever like that.
No,
the
no,
point
no.
is this. By outlawing him, you recognize its evil.
Yes.
And the minute you recognize it, you take steps to remove that evil.
Right.
Do you want to tell us what you're doing in the Philippines, Johnny?
Well, it might take a little bit,
Oh.
but I'll just give the general background.
Okay.
I'd like to say that a few years ago, the civilian Philippines were more afraid of their army than they were communists.
Okay.
This was because the army had committed abuse against the civilian population. But a few years ago, a man was sent to the Philippines, and one of our Filipino leaders, and he cleaned out the army by reorganizing it.
Okay.
That man's name is Magsaysay, and he's now our president. The first thing he did was to make it punishable by death for a firing squad the abuse of any civilian, any soldier. After a few
Talaga?
court-martials and a few executions before the firing squad, discipline was restored. He did many more things to restore the morale of the army. He removed the subversives within it. And then he divided them into small, compact units which could strike with deadly efficiency and deadly mobility at any point within the Philippines. But that
Like for what, Johnny?
strike against any part of the Philippines.
I see.
There was a time when the army was such a big, it was unwieldy. But by dividing it into small compartments, he could distribute it anywhere with fast.
But you didn't tell us that there were guerrilla communists all over the Philippines, and that was the reason why he had to do this with the army.
Yes, that
Now
is
tell
one
us
of the
how he
reasons.
dealt with the guerrillas.
Now the point is this, it is not enough to kill a communist. As much as possible, it would be better to bring a communist alive and change him to your ways of
Yeah.
thinking. So what Magsaysay did was this. He put in a program of land reform, which in simple terms was this. He said, for every communist without a criminal record, there is a piece of land for himself and for his family. Therefore, if that person has no criminal record, he can come down and become a capitalist. That is why I'm fond of saying that one of the best ways of treating a communist is to make him a capitalist.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
but
all
if
right.
you have made the communists in your country into capitalists, why should you be so afraid of the communist propaganda? I think you must realize that the dangerous communists, the intellectuals, will remain communists anyway. They are not influenced by the communist propaganda,
All
and
right.
they will go underground. But
All right.
the reason for outlawing the Communist Party, I think, must be to prevent communist propaganda. And I can see that communist propaganda would be dangerous in a prosperous country where
Yeah.
people are satisfied.
Precisely.
Johnny,
But you see,
Wait, let Ram have a turn.
the point is that the methods that were adopted in your country would not quite work in our country.
Hmm.
Because the
Alright.
basic assumption was that poverty and illiteracy produce communism. But as we find it worked, it doesn't seem to be working that way. Because in India, while you do have a great deal of poverty and of illiteracy, you do not have communism rampant in those sections. Paradoxically enough, communism is most rampant among the educated people
Yes.
and among the rich people and among the
Yes.
minority. And of course that represents a very great potential danger. And the reason is to be found. I mean, why is it so? It is not what normally expects.
Yes.
And therefore a different type of solution has to be found. And perhaps your solution, which you adopted in Philippines, may not work because the circumstances are quite different.
all right,
Okay, so there was a couple of things here that I did not really know. I did not know that during the reign of President Magsaysay, there was actually firing squads. I had no idea of this. Did you? Now, the other thing is that I completely agree with this. They are saying that to turn a communist into a capitalist is the only way, basically, to get rid of the communists. I think that's right. We see all those communist countries that collapsed around 1990, 91, around that time, they've all turned into capitalist countries. Ayan, I think these are the best highlights from Johnny Antilon's speech or debate here with the other foreign exchange students. And there's a lot of things that came out there that I really do support. There's also a few things that I didn't know, such as the reign of Magsaysay. But I want to know what you guys think. Is the communism really rampant still in the Philippines? Is the CPP, the NPA, and the red tagging, is it really a problem, or is this just a problem because of the media bringing it out? The media highlighting it? So what do you think about communism in the Philippines right now? Does it affect you? And what do you think about Johnny? Gosh, I love Johnny. He is so articulate. He knows how to debate. I'm so impressed by these youngsters like Johnny and Raul. Back in the 50s, they were so articulate. They knew what was happening in the world. How about people nowadays? The youngsters nowadays, are they just TikTok kids? Or do they actually know as much as these youngsters did way back in the 1950s? I'm really amazed at this. And I really don't think that youngsters nowadays, like TikTok kids, they know nearly as much as Raul and Johnny do. But what do you think? Do you have the feel on the pulse of this? Let me know in the comments, what do you think about our young generations? Are they as smart as Raul and Johnny? Or are they just all TikTokers? Oh, by the way, I do have a TikTok account, so please follow me on TikTok, okay? Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button, okay? Hey, if you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It helps me a lot. Thank you. Salamat po. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to click that subscribe button and of course the bell button so you'll be notified when we have new videos for you.